Juicy, spark the happiness, quench your thirst naturally.
Achika, India's #1 trusted gold buyers. We release pledged gold instant cash payment.
Hello and welcome to Galatta Plus. In this video review episode, we're going to be talking about Jyothi Krishna's Hara Veera Mallu Part 1. The film stars Pawan Kalyan and Bobby Deol. It is a not bad story about an outlaw who takes on Aurangzeb. Now, the film takes a long time to find its feet, but once the real story gets going, there's a fable-like Amachitra Katha feel that works well. The rest of this review may contain spoilers. Pawan Kalyan's new film comes with a long title, Hara Veera Mallu Part 1, Sword versus Spirit, Battle for Dharma. It's a chosen one story set in the 17th century, and it's an interesting attempt to mix history and mythology. The history bit kicks in when Aurangzeb, played by Bobby Deol, reimposes the jizya tax on non-Muslims who refuse to convert. Referring to Hindus, he says that as long as their religion is alive, Indian culture will never die. The mythology bit comes in with Veera Mallu. At first, he looks like a Robin Hood-like outlaw, someone who steals from the rich and gives to the poor. But slowly, he reveals mysterious powers like an ability to control wild animals by communicating with them. Part 1 ends when Veera Mallu faces Aurangzeb, setting up the clash that will presumably be narrated in the sequel. The first half is not very promising. There is a lot of flab. Why do we need to see Aurangzeb behead his brother and so forth? Why not start with him announcing the jizya tax, which is the oppression that underlines the story? But then, to establish the character of Veera Mallu, we get a series of smaller oppressions by smaller rulers down south, the Divans and so forth. They make their citizens dig for diamonds and give better food to those who find the rocks, or else they make these villagers fight mountain-like wrestlers in order to get their share of grain. God will send a savior, says an oppressed father to his son, and sure enough, baby Veera Mallu lands up at the doorstep of a temple priest. This baby is swept along a river as though guided by a divine force. The frames by Jnana Shekhar and Manoj Paramahamsa are colorful, and M.M. Keeravani's big score adds power to the proceedings, but the events themselves are generic and dull. There's a nice bit where Veera Mallu asks his people to raise their heads and see the Divan's face, as opposed to earlier when their heads were always lowered and they could only see his feet. But for the longest time, there seems to be nothing at stake. It's just one long fight sequence after another to set up the protagonist, and there's no danger, nothing to make us care. More time is wasted with the Nidhhi Agerwal character, who looks like a love interest and then springs a surprise, but none of this is written convincingly. Pawan Kalyan handles his star duties with flair, though there are times he looks a little bored and appears to be going through the motions. His agile presence somehow takes us to the interval block, which is where the real story begins. This is where the journey to meet Aurangzeb is set up when Veera Mallu is asked to steal the Kohinoor diamond that sits on top of the Mughal emperor's peacock throne. Veera Mallu forms a gang, and the second half gets going, and then the film becomes much better. The post-interval portions wholeheartedly embrace the history meets mythology aesthetic, and a masala-filled Amachitra Katha flavor kicks in. We get a landslide, we get a tornado, we even get a pack of wolves. The songs like Mata Vinali fit better, and the action is also nicer. A set piece where Veera Mallu takes on a whole bunch of Mughal soldiers is beautifully done. Instead of going wide, the camera stays fairly close, and the compressed frames look like action paintings. There are mentions of Hindu rituals like a Varuna Yagna to bring rains, but these rains also bring relief to a drought-stricken village filled with Muslims. In other words, only Aurangzeb and his men are shown as bad guys. I wish the king had been given more to do, but maybe that's what part 2 is all about, and I really hope they go all out with a comic book fantasy feel. For now, we are left with a half-decent setup, and in a season of disappointing movies with big stars, that feels like an actual achievement. That's it about Hara Veera Mallu Part 1. If you like this video review, do subscribe to Galatta Plus, and see you soon at the movies.
Juicy, spark the happiness, quench your thirst naturally.
Achika, India's #1 trusted gold buyers. We release pledged gold instant cash payment.